already talked about a little bit, the Chiefs have quite a lot that they kind of they need to prove. The stage one, we had a couple of questions, some of them got answered, but since then it hasn't been the greatest storyline for them.
I think might be a good time, Rob, for me to bring up that stat that you were mentioning a little bit before. The Chiefs currently, including their most recent major attendance in Charlotte, are on an 11-map losing streak. 11 maps. Now, obviously, that also factors in APAC playoffs, etc. So not the easiest to run, international teams in that mix as well, but it does start to raise a mini red flag. And heading into a matchup where, particularly last stage, Chiefs 100% would have been a shoo-in to win it, do we start to question their ability now to start performing under a little bit of pressure that seems to be creeping in?
Yeah, and you know, it always seems to be fun and games, but I'm sure it's probably quite serious behind the scenes at the moment. Obviously, again, just talking about the format changes, it just puts so much pressure on these teams for the 7 play days that we have. Only best of ones. Don't forget that at home. You have to win 7 best of ones essentially to secure your place coming up at the major. And they go up against Fury. Now, stage 1, this should have been an easy defeat, Xenox. But really, I think there's a little bit to this roster now that we're kind of getting excited about. The additions of the ex-Napier, now I9, and BG, man. I think that this roster could actually do some damage here.
Yeah, look, I think they're a dark horse to actually take down the Chiefs here, of course, who are struggling a little bit at the moment. And you mentioned, of course, Napier, now I9, BG, man, been around the block, they've played at this level before. It's not going to phase them. And I think they also have the confidence of the fact that they're the underdogs. There's no real high expectations. No one's necessarily thinking they're going to be, sweeping the Chiefs, fighting for top 2. They're just growing. They're just continuing to improve off the back of stage 1, coming into stage 2 now, of course, with a couple of roster changes. So you do kind of, I guess, get any sort of pressure that may be there on some of the other teams. Not quite there for Fury. And honestly, yeah, look, Playday 1, they pushed wildcard to a 7-5 kind of result on Bank, a little bit back and forth. They had some good moments on attack defense. So look, I'm not saying they're going to win. Obviously, I ended up tipping the Chiefs, but this is not going to be a repeat of what we saw in stage 1, where if you think back to Playday 2, both of these two teams played each other, Rob. They opened up Playday 2, and Chiefs won 7-0. There's no way that's happening again.
Oh, well, okay. We'll have to wait and see where we're heading for this one. Obviously, expectations are kind of set for both of these teams. Fury, the definite underdogs in this storyline. The first 2, honestly, actually the first 3 bans coming out really heavily played throughout 2021.
Oh, Bank.
We are going to Bank, my friend. Theme Park was banned out for. Yeah, don't you worry. Your eyes are yet deceiving you. You are still on sweeten time.
I was so hyped for like a split second. I don't know how I missed it.
No, you were. You've missed it by a little bit there. But we do go to Bank, Guz, which gives us a little bit of knowledge. Obviously, we saw the 7-5 victory for Wildcard on Bank against Fury. They now take on the Chiefs. And Bank, I feel, is a really easy middle ground for us here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Chiefs, though, in particular, when I focus in. Obviously, they had the decision between Skyscraper and Bank, and you look at the numbers, Skyscraper actually is a little bit more favorable for them, and in fact it's actually their most banned map against. So it seems as if they're just maybe not particularly comfortable going there in this head-to-head. You then go across to Bank, and it's a 1-5 record, not very strong for them. Now you look at the results, a loss against Australis, a loss against BDS, so they're not international opponents to be scoffed at. So you would hope that during the major, during their time overseas in Charlotte, maybe the Chiefs have learnt from those games. They can carry across those learnings into today.
They're going to have to, because there's a big chance here for Fury, Xenox. There's a little bit of a buzz around them. I want to be careful how far we go in on this storyline, because obviously only 2 play days in, so many things can change, and so many things will change. Elevate lost, like you said, their opening game in stage 1 against Renatus. They went on to go second. So I want to get very quick final predictions here before we get underway. Xenox, what are we thinking?
Yeah, and just quickly touching on that as well, Elevate also lost their Playday 2 matchup too, so they had an amazing run from basically Playday 3 to 7. I think Chiefs will win. I think Bank it's an incredible map when you actually look back at some of their statistics. It's like 1-5. It's not actually great result-wise, but I always feel like they're quite comfortable on the map, and the games are quite close. Fury, of course, played it in Playday 1. They'll feel comfortable. Honestly, I'm thinking like Chiefs 7-5, 7-4, something along that line.
Guz, you seem to concur?
Yeah, Fury's result last week against Wildcard was a 7-5, the exact same scoreline when they took each other on in the first stage. So I still think Fury are largely unproven. This is going to be a big challenge for them, and I think the Chiefs will just be too good.
Stage is set. Thank you very much for joining me on the desk, gentlemen. We will throw it over to Dev and Mandy for the matchup on Bank.
Cheers, Rob. Yeah, look, only 2 days in so far with APAC, but it does feel like there's a lot of hype behind this season. That format change has really heightened the stakes. How you doing, Mandy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thanks. And like you said, it's just so high stakes, and especially for both these teams, coming away with no points means this game is a must win for them to get on the board, and so I just can't wait to get into Bank.
Yeah, if you look at stage 1, the teams that made top 2, I mean, it was only Direwolves and Elevate, right? Direwolves went flawless all season, and Elevate did lose 3 games, but one of them was in overtime. So these teams do not have many opportunities to drop points. The Chiefs, after losing to the Gladiators, will face Fury, another reasonably low-rated team in the league. They have the pressure on them to take the win here, or else face a very grim-looking run towards a potential major spot. Fury on the up and up with this new roster. Let's see what they can do.
The Chiefs, I mean, these last few weeks just have been absolutely atrocious for them. They just haven't been able to get points on the board. They haven't been able to take maps for themselves. Just finding it really difficult to close out, especially these late rounds, as we've seen time and time again. So the Chiefs coming to this match, I'm looking for them to correct some of the mistakes that they made, particularly in that last Playday, and see if they can take it to Fury.
Fury did, of course, play Bank last week against Wildcard. A close 5-7 against a Wildcard that has been looking a lot stronger than their previous experience. And so Fury, with these 2 new players, BG Man and I9, of course, former Elevate players, it makes us wonder, do they have a little bit more gas in the tank than perhaps they used to? In fact, Fury are going to ban out the Nook, which is something that we've seen Chiefs play a decent amount.
And I think on top of that, the Hibana ban does mean that getting these hatches open, playing that long-ranged hard breach will be much harder for the attacking half. So we'll have to see either the tin can opener, the hard breach, to get some of those hatches open, or we'll see more use of the ace or whatever it might be. Attacking now has become a little more difficult. Valkyrie also being taken off will make the defense a little more tricky, but honestly, fair enough. Finding some of those black eyes inside the lobby are absolutely impossible at times, and I imagine that Fury, they're just not willing to deal with that.
And I really like the Nook ban from Fury as well. Chiefs are a team that love to have really strong lurking players, particularly I'm thinking of Ethan. Now, Chiefs are actually one of the best teams for opening kills, and Ethan is one of them. At the Major in Charlotte, he was the 4th best opening kill player at the entire event. Keep in mind that, of course, Chiefs went out in groups, didn't even win a game, and yet him and Bouncin are still in the top 5 for opening kills. That tells us that Chiefs are a really strong opening kill team. It often comes off those lurks, which Nook is perfect for. So a really good read from Fury to ban that out.
And I think to add to your point, such is the nature of how the Chiefs play their attack. They don't just do that on Bank, on Chalet, we see it a lot as well, but the Chiefs, they never play a linear attack. They never have all 5 of their players spawn on one side of the building and sweep across the building and try and roam clear, like in a very standard, traditional way. The Chiefs, they always place someone on a different part of the map. They always try to fend off a room or make the entry on their own, and that can really rattle the defense and divide their attention, which is why their lurks are so strong. So like you said, banning out the Nook will be good against the Chiefs, but not on the side of Fury. Fury, they play a much more traditional game.
And Fury will start on the attack as well, which tends to be somewhat favored on Bank. From the games we've seen recently, I've seen a lot of really, really good Bank attacks, and I think that this is going to put an extra layer of pressure onto the Chiefs. Like you said, of course, a lot of these bans perhaps support the defensive side, and the presence of the Azami as well is something that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I like seeing Azami get some play. A lot of cool things you can do with her, but Fury actually taking up very aggressive positions early on, and the opening pick.
A fantastic entry here from BG Man can now start to work the quad wall. Lycolis will follow with a Selma charge. Actually, Lycolis we saw enter in from the basement, just making sure that no one was there, no one was ready to flank that quad wall. But are they aware of Worthy? Worthy now missing his shots here on the CEO breach. Now they're aware of his position and he'll have to fall off.
Chiefs now under pressure at a 2-player, now 3-player disadvantage. They certainly did not get the opening pick this round. And Fury are looking to run away with this advantage. Digital, the lone man on the objective to feel the full pressure of Fury. It's all on Ethan now. And it certainly will not suffice. That is a very strong opening round from Fury.
Fury making quick work into the building. We saw within the first 20-30 seconds, like Hollis, he'd already dropped that tunnel from the spawn just outside of the lobby. He went straight into blue, placed down that claymore in anticipation that when they go for that quad wall, there will be someone trying to flank, there will be someone trying to retake. Followed up with the pinch from BG Man onto the player and Tellers. Fury, they just had, although what was a linear push, a push that absolutely worked and caught the Chiefs off guard. They just were not ready for that.
Makes you a bit scared, doesn't it, Mandy? I'm starting to sweat a little bit for the Chiefs. Now, yeah, attack tends to have a bit of momentum on this map, and Fury do have the benefit of starting on that side, but that was not a close round. That really was just a tsunami from Fury.
And that's the way that Fury play though, right? I mean, they're not the kind of team that tries to play off lurks. They try to go for hero plays. It's kind of not the Fury that we know. The Fury that we know is trying to master the basics. They're going to be the ones just playing your entry and your droner and your secondary entry. Maybe someone trying to play a cutoff like Hollis did in that last round. But the Chiefs, they can't be playing on their lonesome like that. If they want to fight those entries, they need to be playing together and playing crossfires. And the Chiefs that we saw there were just getting caught off in their own room, in their own place, and no way to retrade.
Really lovely drone spot here. Oh, but read by Didge. Speaking of the re, that's an early pick from Worthy. Was that a spawn peek? Where was Dark? Maybe repelling lobby, I wonder? This guy's going to do his best to try and find it. It's really hard to see.
It is very tough.
Those icons.
I can only assume that perhaps it was a lobby lurk. Worthy, he was playing on the main stairs. So when you are playing on the main stairs, you have... You're able to contest two main points of entry here. You're able to contest the open room entry, which is exactly what I9 is doing right now with the Mavericks, starting to work the hatches. But you can also contest that early lobby lurk. Anyone trying to play in ATMs of drones, perhaps he'd seen one in the prep phase that we weren't able to catch on camera. And there we go, it comes into fruition for Worthy and he finds the first pick. But Fury, they're actually making pretty quick work into the building. 2 minutes left, heaps of time, and they're already starting to get the hatches open.
Yeah, and that's really important, isn't it? When Kaid is on the board, and particularly when Hibana is banned as well, opening these hatches becomes very slow. Interesting that Fury decided not to go for the Thatch. They wanted to go for this Mav, but hey, they've made really, really quick time out of it. So the thing about Mav, he does take quite a bit of time to open these hatches, but I9 opened it to perfection. 1.5 minutes still for Fury, but of course, keeping in mind, we've got, what, 2 C4s, 3 gas canisters, and Tachenka's fire, so Fury will have to make sure they start this execute early to bait out Util.
And there you go, Util just on command as Ethan throws out one of his Jamaica launches. That's only one of 13 left in his pockets. That's an entire over a minute. I've done the math at one point in my life. I don't remember it anymore, and there we go. But it actually misses.
No, Fury!
The Osa shield is able to block the line of sight.
How?
Fury, they're able to get this plant down completely uncontested. 12 Shamika launchers still in the pocket.
Yeah, 2 C4s, 3 gas canisters, and 12 Shamika grenades. What is going on for Chiefs? The Fury have crawled back from a numbers disadvantage. They are shutting down the flank. The Chiefs desperately try to make a play. And as 2 players setting themselves up the main stairs, I9 is about to feel all kinds of pressure. It may well be too little, too late for the Chiefs. Another pick now for Ethan. 2 on 2, but there is absolutely no time and no chance. What a round from Fury.
Fury, they just had played that so well. They knew, okay, we have lots of time, let's just start baiting out this denial. But instead of opening up the wall and going for that default plant, they used the Osa shield to get into a slightly off position just by the doorway, something that the Chiefs wouldn't have predicted. And if you're that Tachanka player, how are you supposed to know exactly where that plant is going down? You probably have a lineup for default plant, but do you have a lineup that goes all the way into the back, closer to that server rack to deny that plant? And how would you ever know? And so that was so well played from Fury. They were able to plant in a position that was unknown to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs, can you imagine how frazzled the comms must have been when that plant went down? We went, what? We still have 4 C4s in the pocket. We've done something wrong, guys.
That's, oh my god, like that is grueling. It is very unusual, very uncharacteristic of a team like Chiefs that has been known to really have all of these technical details down pat. This is the team that had such an uplift at the end of stage 1. Of course, they went to the November Major last year, and that was fantastic. They unfortunately couldn't play SI quals due to still being in quarantine from returning from that major. Stage 1 proved to be theirs, though, particularly in the playoffs, where they took down, was it 2 different Korean teams, Korean monstrous, like behemoth teams, to qualify for that major. And now Chiefs, yes, on an 11-map losing streak between their playoffs games, their major games, and of course APAC South and OCN Stage 2. Now, it feels like a hell of a long time since we've had a Chiefs win, and if they keep playing like this, I think we'll have to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, and Fury on the flip side, they just look absolutely amazing. Although what they're doing is not too fancy, it's not too out there, they're just really focusing in on the basics, doing what is critical to win the rounds. They didn't have to go for kills to win that round, they just had to go for the plant. That is the objective mission, after all, of each round. And here we go, I9 being very brave, trying to make this entry and directly contesting the shield. They're not even trying to clear it from the outside of stock, they're just going to go straight for it. And that works in their favor. 1 grenade to clear the shield, and there we go. That's 1 power position dealt with.
How does 1 grenade clear that shield when you've got Jaeger and Wamai?
Well, I suppose all the Wamai discs are probably in stock, right? Because they would think they would go to the stock windows and try and open the wall from there, right? So that's where all the utility is going to come from. But I9, he doesn't need any of that. He just walks in where none of the utility is bar that 1 shield, and 1 grenade in does the job.
Well, fortunately for Chiefs, they do find the first pick. It is traded, however. Jaeger going down of Worthy. Bouncing's still able to play this position in stock despite losing the shield, so that's a really nice adaptation from the Chiefs. But Fury have cover of their own in the form of the Osa shields. 1 placed here for I9 to play off. Of course, Ethan managed to flank that position earlier and net 1 pick. Fury have to recompose.
And unfortunately, those Osa shields, they've been lost in the form of BG Man going down early as well. So they will not be able to use those shields in the late round. And Bouncer now capitalizing off the space that Fury haven't taken yet and able to find a pick from stock. It's starting to fall apart here for Fury.
I was going to say I really like this aggression from Chiefs, not letting Fury be comfortable. However, has netted Fury a couple of kills as well. We are back to 3-on-3. Still quite a bit of time ticking away, and a good breach now on the quad walls from Lycolis.
An execute is imminent here for Fury. Utility starts to go in, and Lycolis, he's trying really hard to contest these angles, but the diffuser's actually all the way outside the building with I9. Fury, what is your plan?
Gonna have to go deep, gonna have to go for kills here. Oh, what a shot from Lycolis! That's bouncing down and out, only 2 more players to find. I9 does get it! It's all on Boydie now, on the newest defender in the operator pool, with a 3-way crossfire to deal with. Uses the cover of the keeper barriers to try and dance around the position, but he cannot deny the plant. He cannot find a position. Gets the exit frag. A potential for 2 more here. But with Hajime on the windows, it's going to be oh so difficult. And Hajime reads it perfectly. He repels all the way down. Boydie cannot find an angle and will have to take the fight on sight. But I9 is ready to hold down the line. A single bullet should be enough, and straight between the eyes. That's 3 rounds in a row for Fury.
Fury looking so sharp here on Bank. Every time that they walk into this building, well, I suppose utility is kind of funny in Siege like that, isn't it, Dev? Sometimes utility seems to just be the bane of your existence. You're stuck behind a shield for ages, half of your round is being burnt out because you can't get a grenade into the spot that you need it to. And then other times, you can just walk past it. If you have the knowledge of exactly what the other utility is that's protecting your shield, or whatever it might be, those Wamai discs, those ADSs, you realize, hang on, we can actually walk past this power position and deal with it much more directly. And Fury, they are the team that is absolutely going to do that. They don't take the steps like that. They are willing to cut the corners and just trust in their pure mechanical skill if they can. And such is the nature of I9 just pushing in with that Gon 6 and two grenades, clearing out a power position immediately, and then not even getting the wall open completely. Fury able to just find picks off the breach like they need to, and there we go. That's their entry straight into Janitor. It's perfect.
On top of that, it's quite funny, isn't it, really? You're talking about this util game with defending power positions. Like Chiefs, even after losing the hallway shield, they still had the keeper barriers that Bouncin was playing off inside of stock, and he found a kill from that position. But then he just gets traded. Like Colas just takes the fight and wins it. You don't have to clear any of the utility if you just clear the player that's playing the position. And I think Fury is really demonstrating you don't have to play conventional Siege. You don't have to play into the hands of your opponents. they're countering Chiefs pretty well.
I think the way that the Chiefs have sort of been brought up to play here in this Australian region is that most Australian teams are very diligent. They really do things step by step. They really take it to the utility and make sure it's fully cleared so that they know that they have the space. And in a way, that's consistency. That makes for a consistent team that will always be able to do the steps one by one to get what they need to do. But when you play against a team like Fury that tries to capitalize more on timings, tries to capitalize more on Chiefs not knowing things, a lack of intel, that type of thing, that's when the Chiefs need to start adapting how they play. The Chiefs have decided to repeat Staff and Office, and this time they seem to have changed their positions a little bit. Boydie is actually barricading off ATMs, and Bouncin, he's already looking for that jump out in case they go for the rappel into the top square or into tunnel.
The Staff from Open Area Bomb Site was the first round won by Fury, the first of the map. Fury really just went for that direct push and found a 3-man advantage really early on. Looks like perhaps BG Man is tempted for a roam clear, aware that this is the position upstairs where Worthy played previously. You can see a couple of Chiefs players littered about on the top floor. My question is, will Fury go for some kind of methodical map control take, or will they just send it in like they did in the previous round?
Fury, they're trying something completely different to what they did last time. Last time we saw, wow, that was perfect teamwork with the Kiva barriers there as well, blocking up the cutoff hole that would be for the parking rappel player. Not sure who that is on the side of Fury, but Worthy's able to get away completely unscathed from that teamwork. There we go, Lycolis realizing, okay, I can't deal with that anymore. There's nothing I can do to clear that Kiva barrier. Let's just try and walk in from another avenue. Fury, they've completely changed their approach this round though. They're not going for that direct push in. They're not only just clearing from that stock side of the building, and they're trying to play cutoffs. They're trying to play a much more dynamic attack here.
Yeah, and I think it's playing into the hands of Chiefs. Chiefs are very much happy to receive that. They've got information for the pre-placed C4s. Boydie finds the first pick. Hajime is going to look to try and make a sneak play though. However, there's a lot of util to deal with and a power position as well inside of Staffroom. Also highly aware of this roamer downstairs. Worthy dropped down the elevator previously.
Lycolis now has just got control of the bottom of square as well, can start working his way on that quad wall. And here we go. I think Hajime is just going to start to make contact with Worthy, knowing that that quad wall is under some serious danger pretty soon.
Worthy just covering his own flank. Eventually he will have to make a move. Doesn't feel pressure to do so yet, but he wins the fight. A great shot there from Worthy. And Fury down in the dumps.
Fury now have an extra angle that they'll need to watch with Worthy looming in the basement. Their push here from the quad wall is no longer safe. Dark, he's going to have to make some other avenue to try and help out his team. Unfortunately, not able to catch the pick out, and Worthy does get pinched. Bouncing with the second as well, leaving I9 all in 1-5.
Slow and steady wins it for Chiefs. Fury capitulated every step of the way, and you can see I9 now has no clue. Couldn't sink their teeth into that round, and as a result, Chiefs will find their first round on the board. I9 just baiting for a pick, finds one, but there you go, Chiefs. By all rights, a flawless round for them.
I think what you said about Fury playing into the hands of Chiefs that round was just absolutely correct. I think Fury, they found a lot more success in just being masters of the basics, in just getting that entry in quickly, using the drones on their support players to support that, trying to play some pre-placed drones, that type of thing, trying to get in early, trying to cut off the Chiefs because they aren't ready, they haven't done their setup in time, or whatever it is. Trying to catch them off guard with timings seems to be the success of Fury. And that round, they played it slow. And the Chiefs, they're ready for that kind of play. They are set up exactly so that they can try and look for a pick and fall off, and look for a pick and fall off back to the utility that they've set up. So Fury, maybe it's time to go back to your old roots.
And I'm a little bit more concerned for Fury in this round because the Chiefs, they're gone back downstairs and they really won this round at the start of the round, and then it started to fall apart as soon as Fury managed to get a plant without Chiefs realizing. You know, Chiefs just, their plant on couldn't cut it. And now Chiefs have been going for a bit more of a well-rounded approach, right? You've got clearly a bit of a roam going on. in terms of the Vigil, you've got the Wamai instead of the Pulse, you've got the Mute and the Castle for denying info and map control, but you still have that smoke on site. You still have a C4 on the Mute. So it means that Chiefs do still have the ability to go for that plant denial.
And I think this is a great adaptation for Chiefs as well, because what we found is that when they play these anchor positions, they take it slow, they wait for Fury to come to them. Fury will definitely come to you very quickly, much more quickly than you could anticipate it, right? And so now that they're going for this more roam heavy, trying to do something more flexible, trying to pinch out Fury and come collapse on them instead of having Fury entries collapse on the Chiefs instead, is a much more dynamic approach, and I think it's going to work out for the Chiefs.
The only thing here, the X factor for Fury, is this Ossa. Because if Fury can put an Ossa shield right at this wall that Hajime is opening up, well, that does really give Fury an opportunity to plant without being exposed to the hatch that Chiefs have opened above. I9, though, oh, he's going to find a kill with the second nade. Chiefs do feel...
And the pick anyway onto Digital. So... I just
that was a really...
Chiefs spread out. It's too spread out for them.
A risky play for Chiefs, I feel, going for the like, if anything, like when I was looking at that setup at the start of the round, I felt like it was a bit more balanced, but then it just felt a little bit too roam-centric. And if all it takes is one nade to down Ethan to completely pull apart your setup, to no longer be covering positions like Kitchen, like Fury just walked into Staff Room from bottom square. And if you're trying to hold open area, you have to have some kind of defense against that. They didn't have any util covering that, to what I could see. Perhaps a castle barricade, but all it takes is a Gon 6, and that's done for. And where this leaves us, right, is Chiefs are now down 4-1. Fury have an opportunity to win this half in a dominant 5-1. 2 rounds away from getting the victory in regulation, which would be 3 points for them, 0 for Chiefs, which would probably mean the end of Chiefs' season in terms of a major opportunity, wouldn't it?
Those are some big implications. That's big pressure here for the Chiefs, who's a team that we really expect to go to these international events, to be one of those top contenders for the top 2, and to be making it to Berlin. And this is such a big game for Fury as well. I just want to toss back the spotlight to them. That last round was so well played on their part. They knew that the Chiefs were going for a roam, so they divided the Chiefs' attention. Some of them threatened a plant. Others, they were trying to look for the roam clear, and I9 and Dark was so successful at that, at dividing the attention of the roamers. And like you said, Ethan with the C4 to go down first, that's not the player that you want to go down first if you're trying to play a rounded defense. So Fury, this is a big game for them. They're playing it so well, both in the mechanical skills and also in the strategy, and I really think they could take this one 5-1.
Big chance at redemption now for Fury, but for Chiefs, this is... they're at death's door, and Fury are knocking. Chiefs are the only team from APAC, not just APAC South, all of APAC, to make it to the last 2 majors in a row, both Sweden and Charlotte. And if they lose this game, they certainly will not be making it 3.
And here we go again, BG Man just making his way straight in with the Ossa shield to support. Worthy is trying to look for the flank, but there is a player inside of Electrical looking for the cutoff. So Fury, although not making the same entry point, they're already supporting each other on this entry.
Very heavy roam from Chiefs. Worthy, though, needs to be extra cautious because Dark is around the corner. Good for one, and ever cautious of Ethan's position as well, as Ethan attempted to refrag. Realizes that's not going to happen and he falls back.
Fury, this entire match have just been brilliant at capitalizing off each other's positions. Once they know one of their teammates have made the presence, another teammate tries to go in and go, okay, I know you're about to be under pressure from somewhere, so I will try and fill that gap. That was Dark coming in from Electrical, knowing that BG Man was about to get flanked. Ethan now looking for the pick on the repels, will use that 1.5x to find the kill onto Lycolis, and that is your hard breacher having gone down.
However, after the hard breach has been deployed, unfortunately that impact misses for Boydie. And that means the Ossa shield will remain. Bounson still has 2 impacts, but he's far away. Might not be able to get into a position to deny that shield. Fury are starting to set up for a plant position now, and they found another pick.
Wow, that was an incredibly tight angle for BG Man to find that pick, but like you said, that impact just slightly mistimed, and I think that gives Fury the invitation to go for their execute.
BG Man to do it. Sound cover from Hajime. I9 to cover the hallway as well. Want an angle, doesn't land enough shots. Chiefs have to deny this plan, but it is not going to happen. The Chiefs are falling to pieces here, about to be down 5-1 as Fury run over on the attacking side. What a half!
Fury absolutely playing that to perfection. I think the name of this game for Fury has been teamwork. Absolutely just teamwork, playing off each other, being able to support each other from the entry in positions that the Chiefs, they had no idea was happening. And in that last round, if you're the smoke, how are you going to deny that plan if you're playing in lobby trying to contest the repels? Fury able to find the window in that execute and able to explode onto the site, and the Chiefs, they just did not have the utility to deal with it.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Yeah, wow. I mean, this is... You could break this down for hours, right? But I'm just starting to feel, I don't know, a sense of foreboding, a sense of dread for the Chiefs. Like, what has happened to this team? This was one of the best APAC teams, not just South, but North as well, that we had at the end of stage 1. And yeah, they might not have found a map at the major, but they ran through those APAC playoffs like it was nothing. They came off the Sweden major, made some roster changes, but proved they could still hang. They made it to the Charlotte major as well. And every time, what these teams talk about when they go to the majors, right? It's like, oh, it's okay if we lose. It's okay if we don't get a map. It's about learning. Well, we're not seeing that from Chiefs.
I think I'm going to go on a bit of a whim with this point here, Dev. But I'm going to say I think a big difference between these two teams right now is trust. I think the Chiefs, they don't seem to be trusting each other to do the roles and be in the positions that they need to be. Whereas Fury, when they walk into the building, they're able to support each other so directly. There with the Chiefs, it didn't have to be Ethan that was the one contesting the repels. Yes, that's such an important job to do. But at the same time, you need those smokes where they need to be. Send someone else with the 1.5x to do that. Same thing on the roam that they played for the basement. It doesn't need to be Ethan contesting that open area when he needs to be the one falling back to site early when those pressure comes in for the plant to play that C4. Whereas Fury, they've just been so much better on this level of trust with their teammates. And I think, yeah, Chiefs, they're just not reflecting that right now. I think they need to pull it back together as a team to be able to come back into this game. And there we go. Hajime, with so much confidence, is able to find the first, and he might even be able to find the second, but Worthy's just a little bit more sharp than he is.
Takes a lot of damage for it as well. So fortunate that Chiefs have the Finker in their arsenal. Unusual for Bouncin to be going 1-7. Unusual for him to be losing these opening engagements. He's usually the king of opening kills. And that's why he was picked up for this roster. Now the Chiefs, I mean, this is tough. They've still got several floors to clear before they can get to that basement. They might have top, but they've got to get the middle floor and then start executing to basement. And yet there's still a smoke and a Tachanka and a C4 on Fury's side for plant denial.
That being said, most of Fury have fallen back with the exception of BG Man, who I think is still holding on to these main stairs, is ready for this push around the elevator, but will start to be drowned out by Boydie. So Fury, they are reeling it back now, dialing it back. There's a minute left to go, so there's still time for them to start burning off that utility. And like you said, the Chiefs, they're taking the time. I'm not too upset at them trading on that entry. I think that was well played from the Chiefs, but it's about trying to convert that through the mid-round, get that utility burn happening early, and trying to convert it into a round win.
Well, there you go. Chiefs have managed to convert another pick. That was the flanking smoke. Was that a flank? No, that was downstairs below, I think. Regardless, BG Man has managed to even it now. And I think that this push has been read. Chiefs were clearly going for a vault and elevator push, and now Fury have rotated for it. But Digital, he's rotated straight on back, and now Chiefs are actually going for a server push.
The Chiefs seem to have bamboozled Fury here. I9 not getting those Shamika launches in the right spot. Will send another one through, but it doesn't quite land. It actually cuts off the hallway. I think Fury dropped the ball here.
No. It's exactly what happened when the Chiefs tried to use the Tachanka. The Lord is not their savior. You can bet your bottom dollar now the Chiefs have one of the most confident post plants that anyone would hope for in Rainbow Six. As Fury have a lot of pressure on. Easy spray down for Worthy. That's one, and he can just back straight off. Boydie's watching for the hallway as well. BG Man can drop, but it's a bit of a game of cat and mouse. Nice pick, but there's just no time. This is not going to work for Fury, and the Chiefs finally start to stem the bleeding. They can find a second round here on Bank, but a whole lot more has got to be done on this attacking half.
BG Man now losing out on time. 2 seconds is not enough time to get on that diffuser, and Digital will collect the kill for the Chiefs anyway. The Chiefs, that's exactly what I wanted to see from them though. That entry, it seemed bad from our perspective. We were watching Hajime get the kill, but the trade came in immediately for them. That was that teamwork that we've been missing from them this entire game. And on top of that, they were able to convert the mid rounds. They realized, okay, getting through that vault drop is going to be pretty tough with that Shamika launcher. Let's try something else. Let's try and divert that attention and convert it into a round win. And that was perfectly played from Digital. And so the Chiefs, these past few playdays, that's been their big downfall, not converting the mid round, playing a very slow late round. But they were able to do it this time and find a round win.
I gotta say, why could no one use Tachanka, Mandy? Like, why are neither of these teams successfully denying the plant with the Shamikas? What's going on?
Bomb located by
I
attackers.
think personally it's down to intel. I think that there's a big lack of intel on that server side. It's pretty tough to hide cameras in there, especially with Valkyrie off the board. You'd have to be forced to take Maestro or another Bulletproof or something, but that's pretty easy to deal with the destructibility that's on the attacking side these days. So I think when it comes to denying your Shamika launches, you have to have a very specific lineup to make it land exactly where you want it to go. And that time it takes for your player to communicate, oh, I think they're planning here, guys. So that Shamika launcher going out is just, that's not enough time. 7 seconds, the bomb's already down. So I just feel like a lack of intel on both these defending halves means that Tachanka is a bit futile.
It goes to show the strength of smoke over Tachanka is that larger radius. It's just so much easier. You chuck one gas babe there and you're pretty confident it's chugging up all of that plant denial spot. But look, not the same with Tachanka, it seems.
Definitely not the same. And Chiefs now, they're starting to attack onto CEO office, which is something that they really struggle to defend. So I really hope that they can learn from the mistakes on their defense half and figure out a formula to crack this puzzle.
Drones went out into staff room and open area, cleared that for the Chiefs. Worthy also got in there, looking for a roamer downstairs. Chiefs seeming to try and counter the way that they played this site with that heavy roam. But of course, what they will need to deal with is BG Man's position. This is starting to be a very default hold now. We've seen in the previous stage, of course, these reinforced walls defended by the impact grenade and a shield in the hallway is now augmented by the addition of Azami.
Yeah, and BG Man now, he will expect the Chiefs to go through that standard clear, start to burn you through the window, and there it goes. The flashbangs start to come through, followed by a nade. We can hear it just ring out there, but it doesn't collect any utility. And finally, the Keeper barrier goes down and the wall can be opened.
Oh, nice job from Ethan. Bounce and goes straight in on the back of that kill. The Selma was used to bait out that position and now is also sound cover for Bouncin as he moves on inside. Unusually low kill game for this deadly player. Hopefully he can amend that as Chiefs try to make a comeback.
Although it's unusually low, I think that on this attacking half we've seen so far, just 2 rounds in, he's done his job, Bouncin. As the entry, you're not always expected to live for too long. Hey, you're the entry, you can get traded out as long as you're making the space for your team that you need. And Bouncin now holding control onto stock. I9, what are you doing?
No.
Oh no.
Oh no! He gets the double! That is Napier, that is I9, and that's Fury looking at match point potentially. In a 4 versus 2 advantage, Boydie and Ethan have got a lot of work to be done, and Fury have a resurgence of confidence on the back of that. These long angles proving to be deadly for the defenders and the attackers alike.
This is the kind of thing that you come to expect from Fury, right? There we go. Dark able to take down Ethan with the assistance of the smoke canister of all things on top of Square, leaving Boydie left in the 1 versus 4. The Chiefs just completely fall apart. I9, what was that?
I9 has won the round for Fury and also their first points of not just the stage, but the season. Fury have broken the 8-game streak of losing in regulation. They have guaranteed at least 1 point on the standings after today, and that puts them ahead of the Chiefs. With a 4-round lead, the world is their oyster.
And that really sets the Chiefs so far back for this major contestation. Getting to Berlin now with what could be 2 regulation losses on the board is going to be incredibly tough for them. Don't you think so? I just think that unless something miraculous happens with the standings, unless APAC South decides to flip on its head, it's going to be so tough for them to make it.
Looking at stage 1, obviously the #1 team, Direwolves, went flawless. They won every single game in regulation. Yeah, #2 teams and #3, and so actually, in fact, it was everyone from 2nd until 5th on the standings all had 3 losses. So that's Elevate, Chiefs, Knights, and IG all had 3 losses. The difference is, of course, not only the head-to-head between who beat who, but also the fact that a lot of those losses were in overtime, so you lose less points. But the real killer here for Chiefs, like let's say Chiefs had played against Direwolves and Elevate and lost their first 2 matches in the stage. You're probably not sounding the warning bells because they're still going to get tons of points facing these lower league teams like Fury. But here we go. Fury is still destroying the Chiefs.
That is one way to try and close out this match on your match point at the moment. Hajime looking for a brave spawn peak will now rotate safely back to his friends on the site. Actually, no, he won't even do that. The outlines are baiting me. He's still looking for this roam here and Tellers all on his lonesome. BG Man still holding on to open area. 30 seconds have gone down and Chiefs, they've just lost one of their entries. No trade.
Look, I'll give Chiefs something. At least they did win the last time Hajime got an opening pick on this site, but hey, I guess it doesn't matter because Hajime's actually managed to double down, takes himself very low by smashing through the wall, but he can get back to site. Ethan has managed to trade back with 2, and now the tables have turned. Both teams have 2 full HP players and 1 very low player to support them.
And lots of time. That's a big factor on the Special Bomb side. Although there is the C4 and still smoke grenades, Digital can now start to make his way into the building safely, knowing those roamers have now been cleared out by Ethan, and start to burn out that utility much, much earlier, which is a lot of success that we've seen here in this basement. The Tachanka never seems to work out, so now we've got smoke, but there's only 3 smoke canisters to burn. So the Chiefs, they've made excellent progress here in this round.
And now we're going to have a bit of quiet as Fury have retreated back to the site and the Chiefs start to figure out what their plan is. We still have an aggressive like Colas here on the stairs. No utility to support him, so a grenade or a flashbang could mean the end of him. The drone is going to confirm his position shortly, and then Chiefs will have to make a move.
The Chiefs, in true Chiefs fashion, taking their time, doing their due diligence through this mid-round, making sure that they don't lose any more critical players. 3-on-3, that is not that many players left in your arsenal to play trades. They're really taking their time, making sure those drones are in, and Digital taking very low in that engagement with Lycolis, and we'll maybe find this pick here, left with a slither of health dev. What is going on?
It's a daring fight, but Bouncin does win it. Now there is a shot here for Chiefs to keep this game alive. But Fury are primed and ready, and I9 is eager to keep contesting. Feels that pressure from the fire and gets back to safety. No C4 though. So this Plantanal is going to be very, very difficult. Hajime's going to have to do something on the long angle as Digital tries to make it work, but it's taken very low. The Chiefs are desperately trying to keep this game alive, but I don't think it's going to happen. Digital's been down! And that is it for the Chiefs! The first 2 matches of their stage, they caught the L, and Fury finally break the streak. They have a dub on the standings.
What an incredible game for Fury, finally finding not just any win, but a regulation win against not just any team, but one of the top teams in the entire league in the form of the Chiefs. Fury, they must be feeling absolutely ecstatic right now.
Oh, well, a hell of a lot can one stage change. A 2-month break, and we have the world turning on its head. Fury have their first victory of 2022 in APAC South. What a relief for a team that has faced some serious strife and a serious slump. What an achievement for this roster that has seen some serious highs, but been falling into mediocrity stage after stage. They've finally taken down one of the big hitters of APAC South, which is certainly a cause for concern if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're in the Chiefs camp, it's time to go back to the drawing board. It's time to just go back to the basics and figure out each thing step by step, because Fury, they really played an incredible game of Siege State. That was just such incredible teamwork, and I don't think it was matched by Chiefs at all.
Look, Mandy, great cast. Sorry, who did you predict to win this game?
I think we predicted Fury this time, actually.
I did too. Hey, Rob, what did you guys predict?